Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on the Matter-Informed 3 3D scanner. My name is Trevor, and it's been about a year since I last did one of these, and we've made a ton of updates since then. 3 has faster performance, it has new features, the software has been improved in a whole bunch of ways. So we've done at least 20 updates of software since then. So it's now May of 2025, and we figured it was time to do a fresh walkthrough tutorial. So I'm going to show you how the new scanner works, give you a tour of the software, and walk through scanning an object from start to finish. In this case, the giraffe that you can see on the turntable. So along the way, I'll point out tips for getting great results, which honestly is not hard to do with this scanner because it's a really, really good scanner. My scanner is already connected to Wi-Fi. You can see the Wi-Fi antenna installed there on the scanner, top left corner. I'm accessing the software on the scanner through matterinform.local, which is the local server built right into the scanner. If you're new to this, don't worry. Your scanner includes a quick start guide that walks you through connecting it to your network or using its built-in hotspot. So once you're connected, you just head into the scanner's web interface, again, matterinform.local, or it projects the IP address that you can use as well. So that also works. And that, of course, is where the scanning takes place. Okay, let's transition over to the software. So here we have the Matter-Inform 3 website software. You can see the URL matterinform.local right here. And of course, that is served from the scanner itself. So we have the 3D workspace here and some tools for selection and cleaning and measurement over here on the left. And here on the right is the list of where all the scans will be once we actually add some to this project. But before we start scanning, I want to recommend checking out the built-in tutorials, and specifically single scan demo and turntable scan demo. So these will walk you through the camera setup, the focusing, object placement, the basics of capturing a scan. They only take a minute or two. And even if you've scanned it before, it's worth a quick refresher. And if you've never used 3 before, definitely check out the single scan demo, then do the turntable scan demo to see how the turntable works. And then you'll be pretty much all set to go for your scanning with Matter-Inform 3. We also have, of course, lots of other documentation here that explains all the different sections of the software and what all the tools mean. So check that out, and you'll be all set. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to set up a new project, and I am going to call it Giraffe. Okay, and then click on Add Scan, and we are ready to go. Now, in the tutorial, it recommends starting with, in your camera settings, starting with exposure and gain at the bottom and projector brightness at the top. So all the way to the left for exposure and gain, all the way to the right for projector brightness. And then you slowly increase the exposure until you start to see some red on your object. And that means it's going to be overexposed in those areas. And so you can pull it back slightly to get rid of the red, and then you're good to go. Another option is you can actually pull back the projector brightness as well, and that keeps the scene, the colors of the scene of the object, nice and bright, but it doesn't overexpose the object, so you'll be able to scan it. One thing that's important to note with the Matter-Inform 3 scanner is you don't need perfect lighting conditions. The scanner is designed to work in typical room lighting. Avoid direct sunlight, but like everything else is fair game. So you don't need to worry about making a special box to contain the scanner or anything like that. It's pretty much good to go regardless of lighting conditions. So now that we have our exposure and projector brightness set, we have a good representation of the giraffe's color here by doing that. So I'm going to reduce camera, and the next thing we're going to talk about is focusing the cameras. So you can see the giraffe is a little out of focus here. So 3 has automatic focusing cameras, which is a huge advantage. You can focus on objects from about 20 centimeters to a full meter away, which means you can scan tiny items like coins or jewelry, or even something as big as a person, while maintaining excellent accuracy. So to focus the cameras, you simply move the orange box onto the object, and it will focus the camera at that point. And I'll do the same thing here. Giraffe. There we go. So now, of course, the giraffe is much more in focus. And of course, that means that you're going to have, an accurate scan. Let's get into capture. And the first thing I want to talk about is scan density. And so you'll see there's options for low, medium, and high. Now, a common misconception is that high is equal to better scans, and that is not actually true. Here's how you can kind of think about the scan density setting and how to choose. So high is best for very small detailed objects like jewelry or coins. The scanner will be very close to the object and you'll be looking to capture tiny surface features, things that are like a quarter of a millimeter. Medium density is great for mid-sized objects with some detail, like this giraffe. And this is my usual setting. This is where I usually do most of my scanning. Low density is perfect for larger, smooth surfaces, like, for example, a car fender, something that doesn't have fine details on the surface. And so, you can go with low and save a lot of time and file size without losing any detail because it's a smooth surface. So that's roughly how I would break down, picking low, medium, and high. I'm going to pick medium for my scan right now. But you can experiment with this and see the differences and decide for yourself what is appropriate for the particular object you're scanning. So I am also going to turn on capture texture, and so that is the actual, I'm saying that I want to capture the color of the object in this scan. And then noise reduction, I am going to put it at about halfway. It goes to 31, so I'll put it around 16. You can experiment with this as well. And you may find that for some objects, increasing the noise reduction will improve the overall quality of the scan, and other objects it won't matter at all. Now, in terms of capturing the texture, it's important to note that the lighting does actually matter when you're talking about capturing texture. If you just flipping over to camera here again, if I move my exposure down to the low end here and I want to capture texture, it's actually not going to capture much because, of course, the images in the camera are very dark. So you're going to have, not very true to life color. If you're not capturing texture, then of course you can have a very dark images on your camera and it won't matter. But when you're capturing texture, you do need to have a bit more a brighter exposure so that you'll actually have the color representation in the final scan. I'm just going to reduce projector brightness a bit just because I saw still a little bit of red right there. So I'm going to bring that down. There we go. Okay, so that's capture, texture, and scan density. And now lastly, let's talk about the turntable scanning. So we'll go into turntable. So this is what, of course, rotates the object and lets the scan be captured from all angles. So you have scans and sweep. So sweep is how much the turntable is going to rotate. So I'll make it the full 360, but you have, of course, options for less than that if you wish. And then scans is how many times it's going to stop and the scanner will take a scan. The maximum is, oops, I just changed I'll put the exposure back, sorry, put the focus back on the giraffe. So the maximum is 14, and you'll notice there's a little warning here, less is more. Consider scanning with 10 steps and adding more scans after if needed. It's very tempting to take the settings in 3 and max everything out, thinking that you're going to get the best quality possible. And again, just like with the scan capture with the high scan density, setting everything to max is not actually necessarily going to give you the best quality scan. The settings are there for you to use in a way that matches the kind of object you're scanning. So, for this object, I think I would be able to capture a perfectly good representation of this, probably in as few as 5 scans. But I'll do 6 just to make sure everything is covered. And I've got the full 360 in the turning, so that should be good. So now everything is set up. We have our camera, we have our capture, and we have our turntable. Everything's set the way we need it. And I keep changing my focus on my giraffe here, so I'll put the focus back on the giraffe. So the focus is set. So now we're all set, and we have to calibrate the turntable. Let's walk through the calibration steps. So first thing I want to do is press Calibrate Turntable, and it will take you through the steps to ensure that everything is ready to go. So, the first thing it wants you to do is actually place the object on the turntable, but of course it's already there, so we'll click Next. And then it's asking to make sure you've focused your cameras where you want, which we already have, so that's good. So I'll press Confirm. And then it says, using either calibration card, place the card on the turntable and try to fill the view of the camera with the checkerboard squares. Make sure the calibration card is fully seated into either slot of the stand. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to take the card here and put it on the bed. Like so. And you can see that the card is being detected because it has the green boxes around it. And then we'll press the calibration button and then go over to see what's happening with the scanner. So it turns the card on the turntable and does the calibration. And as I said earlier, it only takes about 20 seconds. And that's that. And so now we'll transition back to the software. And it's already finished. So great. So that's the calibration completed. I'm just going to put this giraffe back on the bed. Now, in terms of picking the calibration card to use, you basically, when you're really close to the scanner, you can use the small card so that it can be seen. Most of the card can be seen. And if you're a little bit further away, like we are with the giraffe, then you can use the large card because it will fill the entire screen with the calibration pattern. Okay, so we'll press continue. And now we are ready to start scanning. So let's press start scan and see how that goes. So the software is saying capture in progress. We'll flip over to see what the scanner is doing. So the scanner is rotating, or the turntable is rotating the giraffe, and it's taking scans at the different angles that we set up. So we set up to do 5 scans. This will take a couple of minutes, and then when it's finished with the capturing, it will flip back to the software and watch it do the processing. Okay, so this would be the last scan of the 5. Okay, and then we'll flip back to the software, and you can see that it's processing the scans now. Okay, so there we go. So now we have our complete giraffe scan, or at least our first giraffe scan here. And we can see it's captured it from all the way around. So let's take a look at the different things that we're seeing on the screen. So first of all, we have a turntable group here, turntable group 1. And you can see there are 6 scans inside it. So we had chosen to do 6 scans. I think I said 5 earlier, but it was 6. And so each one of the scans in it has a color assigned. So let's take a look. If we turn off the visibility of the pink one, you can see on the giraffe, you can see that that particular part of the scan being hidden. So show it again, hide it. So each one of the scans in the turntable group is already aligned, and each one can be made visible or invisible. And then, if there's one particular scan that you want to do an edit on, you can hide the other scans and go in and then do some cleaning on that one scan and then show all the other scans. So the turntable group is already aligned, and so you're all set and ready to go. Down here at the bottom, we have texture opacity, and this actually was off. I'm now turning it on to full 100%, and now you can see the actual color, the color capture. Now it looks a bit patchy at the moment, but that's because it's just the raw capture. It hasn't been texturized and blended yet, so it looks like this. But you can see, the color, and if we turn the opacity back down, you can see the individual scans. So now we have our one turntable group. I am going to rename this. So to rename it, you just double click on it and you can give it a name, and I'll call it standing. There we go. So now this is the giraffe standing up. And so we're going to do a second scan to capture the top of the head and the inside of the legs and the belly. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to add a second scan of the giraffe now. So we'll click Add Scan. And I already have the a scan of it on its feet. So I am now going to reposition it on the turntable so that we're capturing, in this case, the top and the belly, which we missed with, of course, the other scan. So let's put it like that. And then press Start Scan. So this time, let's take us. So we're doing six scans at medium density. So let's just give a timing on this. So we'll start our scan now, and we'll see how long this takes. Now, in terms of timing, that's done 6 scans at medium density. It's processed those scans into 3D points, and it has aligned them, all 6 together, and it took just under 2 minutes. So that's pretty fast. I can't complain about that. Okay, so this is our second scan, and of course it's on a different position than the first scan, which I have currently hidden. You can see the hide and show button here. So I'm going to rename the second scan. I'm going to call it nose and toes because it's lying on its nose. And this is a good opportunity because you can see it's captured a little bit of the bed around the scan. So this is a good opportunity to show the cleaning tools. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn off the three-dimensional axis guidance, and I am going to select the areas that I want to delete. So there are a few selection tools here. We have a rectangular tool like this. We have a lasso tool like this. And we also have a few options down here. So with the plus button, you're adding selections. If you press the X, it replaces everything. It deselects. You can select a section like so, and then choose to deselect and remove a little part of it or another little part. Another option is to select everything you actually want to keep, like so. So now the giraffe part is selected, and then you can click here, the invert selection, and then it deselects what you had selected and selects everything else. And that's kind of quick and easy if you have your points all separated like this, which I do. So once you've selected the points that you want to delete, you just press the delete selection button here, and then they are gone. There are undo buttons here, undo and redo. So you can, if you make a mistake, you can always undo that. And then the only other thing to mention about this is each of these has a shortcut key. So if you have a lot of kind of fine editing to do, or you're trying to get, a point, and then you need to move the object and do another point, you can actually use the letter C to move to the camera, to the movement view. You can use the letter R for rectangular selection, or the letter S for the lasso selection. So hit S and then select a piece, and then hit the letter C, and then you can move it around, and then hit R to do the rectangular, and then hit the C again to move it around. So that's good to know. Right, get rid of that, so no selection. So there we go. So that's our second scan. So we have standing and we have nose and toes. So that's going to have the bottom part and the top part. And now we can align these two together. Okay, so to combine the two scans, we're going to use auto alignment, which is very simple. So you press auto, and then you choose your first scan, the base scan. And so the first one you choose is going to be the one that everything is aligned to. So it's going to be the orientation of the resulting scan. So I'm picking the standing scan, the first one I did, because that's the end orientation is the one that I want it to be in. So I click that one, and then I press continue, and then I choose the aligning scan, which is the new one I just made, which I can still see here. And then I press continue, and then it does the auto alignment. So the software looks at the two scans, and it finds areas that are the same, and then aligns them together roughly, and it does a fine-tuning alignment to make sure that all of the points are syncing up just so. Okay, there we go. So let's turn on standing again so we can see it. So there we go. So now we have the giraffe captured nicely all around. Still missing a spot here, so maybe we'll do a third scan to capture that, but everything else is in there. Looks good. And if I turn the texture opacity back up, of course we can see we've got the color all around as well. And again, it hasn't been blended yet, so it's a bit patchy, but we'll get to that in the next step. So there we go. So now we have our two scans. They are lined together. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a group, and I'm going to call it giraffe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the individual scans that have been aligned together into the group. So we have one group that has all of our aligned scans inside it. So if we do another scan, we can align the new scan to the group, and it will have, all of the points represented. Okay, now we're going to do one more scan to fill in the gap underneath the giraffe. So I have actually repositioned the giraffe on the scan bed as seen, using the duck from the V2 3D scanner from Matter and Form from a few years ago. And so what I'm going to do this time is slightly different to the previous scans. So the turntable, instead of doing 6 scans at 360-degree rotation, I'm only going to do a 90-degree rotation, thereabouts. And I'll do 4 scans. And this is mainly just because I want to capture, this area, the bottom of the giraffe. I don't need to do the full 360 degrees because I already have that other data. I just need this area. So I'm going to set up the scan like this. And then what I want to do is I want to transition over to the video of the scanner, and then I will press start scan, and we can take a look at what happens. So the bed rotates negative 45 degrees, or clockwise 45 degrees, and then it starts its scan there. and then it will rotate counterclockwise back to the 45 degrees on the other side. And then, of course, it will, align all of those scans together and present the final result. Okay, that's the scan finished. Now it's just going to process those 4 scans. And there we go. Now, you'll notice the scan is reloading here. And so what's happening is we're actually downloading all of the scan data from the scanner onto the web browser. And this, when you get a project where you're adding a lot of scans, where you have a lot of data, this can get kind of annoying. So I'll show you quickly here, just before we do our alignment with the latest scan, I'm going to show you a good setting to address that. So if you go into the scan settings and go all the way down to cache, you can choose cache scan data. And you just click that on and then close the window. And then what happens is this data is now cached in the memory of the browser. So every time you go to the scan window or you go to the merge screen and then come back to this, it's not going to reload all that data. So if I go to add scan again and then just cancel, you will see the data is all there. It doesn't have to reload. So this is a nice time saver. Okay, so I have my 2 scans here. Let me hide the giraffe. And now I have my second scan, or I guess my third scan. So I've got most of the inside of the legs here. I think this will clear up or like fill in the rest of that area pretty well. And of course I've got part of the duck, and that's all good. So what I'm going to do is clean away the duck and use the turn. So there's another bit of it there. You don't have to be too careful with this because none of this stuff outside of really anything outside of the 4 legs and the belly is really not really necessary. In fact, I'm going to actually delete most of the neck here as well. It's just there's no point in adding this data back into the scan because it's already there. But I do have, I'm going to use auto alignment, and I have enough data with the 4 legs to be able to allow the system to actually put those together. So I think that's everything. Okay, so yeah, so let's align that. Click auto. We'll choose the giraffe group, which is those 2 scans already aligned in a single group. Continue, and our new group, and continue. Okay, there we go. All right. So that is our completed giraffe, and you can see it's filled in the back quite nicely. Between the earlier scans that had this part and the new scan that has this part, we've pretty much covered it off. There's still a few spots that are missing, like this part of the leg here, but I think that's sufficient for this purpose. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the last stage of the scanning, which is merging it, meshing it, and texturing it. So I'm actually just going to move this into the group, and there we go. Okay, now that all our scans are aligned, it's time to merge them into a single model. I'm going to click Merge Scan. I'll choose all my scans, click Merge. And here's the merge workspace, and this is where we'll walk through 4 key steps. So step 1 is mesh quality. After we do that, then we'll have simplify and convert. Then step 3, texturize, and finally we can export. Now, technically we can export after we mesh, so we don't have to simplify or texturize to export, but we'll run through the different steps. Just like scan density, mesh quality isn't about, higher, very high, equal, better. It's about, your particular scan and what it requires. So as a rule of thumb, the very high and high settings are really good for, very small objects that are highly detailed. It, of course, takes longer to mesh at that level. Low and very low are they're fast, they're lightweight. They lose some of that very fine detail, but not necessarily a lot of it. And then, of course, medium is kind of a great balance for most use cases. I'm going to start with medium, and then we can take a look at 1 or 2 of the others and see how they compare. Okay, there we go. So if we take a look at our mesh, we can see that the detail on the giraffe on the surface is pretty good. The giraffe is actually kind of shiny, like the plastic is kind of shiny, and as such, you are seeing this kind of little bit of a roughness here. And that is actually a result of the fact that the plastic is reflective, and so it ends up making that effect in the mesh. But anyway, that's what the medium looks like. I'm going to add this to project, and so that is part of our other scans. And I'm just going to try another scan on low or another mesh on low, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so there's low, and you can see that was, a little bit faster than medium. Now this is, it's more smoothed out. You don't see the roughness on the neck anymore, and you can still see the patterns in the giraffe's body. So I think I'm going to go with this one. And this brings up an important point, which we'll get into here in simplify and convert. Um, for depending on the kind of scan you have, sometimes you're going to want a lot of geometry because you are going to want a lot of surface detail, and sometimes you are looking for a texture scan where you're looking for the color of the object. And what you'd really want there is as low a number of polys as you can get away with, because you're not actually going to see the geometry. What you're going to see is the color. So from that perspective, I would actually argue that you could make the polygon estimate, simplify it down, even less than this. So one mistake that I see a lot of people making is when they get to this stage, they've done their mesh and now they're at step 2, simplify and convert. And the first thing that they do is they take the polygon estimate and they push it all the way back to the top, and then they press simplify and convert. This is more or less a waste of time. The original size is this. If you move it all the way to the right, that is what you currently have. So by simplifying it and converting it to the same size, what you're actually doing is retopologizing the triangles. And maybe that's important to you in your workflow, and if so, then you should do that. But for most people, I don't think it really matters. If you're going to 3D print this model, you're going to export it for 3D printing, you don't need to retopologize all of the triangles to make them more uniform in size. You're just going to slice it and print the model, and it's going to be great. So doing this is essentially a waste of time. Automatically what happens is it selects the halfway point, and it's basically a suggestion that your model can be simplified without losing surface detail to about the halfway point. And so that, of course, also retopologizes the model, but it's also reducing its size. So for our particular case, I could actually go even lower, because I'm going to I'm going to texturize it next, but I'll stick with the middle point and simplify that, and we'll have a look. Now, in terms of triangles or quads, that's really, again, it's up to you what you need for your end result. It's really, if you're doing video game design, for example, or maybe you're doing some, going to be taking this into CAD, putting into quads might be helpful for you. But really, it's an option for you if you know that you need that as part of your workflow. Okay, so there we go. Now, a lot of people have complained about this particular step as being very slow, and you know, if I pushed it all the way back to the top and retopologized it to be the same size that it's already at, it would take a little longer than that took. That took about, I don't know, 45 seconds, something like that, maybe a little less, which is obviously not very long. If I had pushed it all the way back to the top and retopologized, it might have taken maybe a minute and a half. So yeah, we've actually made some software improvements, and that is one of them as to speed that up. So good. So now we have simplified our mesh, and now I am going to texture it. So all you have to do is press texture. Okay, so that is the texture done, and let's turn on the opacity. So there we go. That is the textured giraffe, and you can see, that the smoothness of the color has been implemented as compared to the raw scans. You can also see that there are kind of like really bright areas on the giraffe, and again, that's because it is shiny, kind of reflective plastic. So that's ending up in creating these sort of hot spots in the texture. But you know what? It looks pretty photorealistic, so I think that's a nice result. Um, yeah, so I'll add this to the project and then head back. Okay, I'm gonna hide that one, and so there is our final giraffe. Now, if I wanted to compare the mesh, so this one was medium. If you'll recall, I did that at a medium mesh, and then this is done at low and textured. So if I wanted to compare the mesh at low, I can turn off or I can turn down the texture opacity so it's not there. And remember, this was meshed at low, and then it was also simplified to be half the size. So we can see the ridging on the giraffe, and if we go over to look at the medium, you can see what it looks like. And the ridging is definitely a little bit more well defined on the medium. And so if you need that in your mesh, then you have that option. If you don't, then you can lower that down using the simplify tool and save yourself some processing time and save yourself some file size. Okay, so now we have our textured simplified mesh, and we are going to export it. So I'll go into the menu, choose export, and then choose whichever file format is the one you want. I'll choose OBJ in this case, and then I want visible only. So that is just our giraffe here with the texturing. That's all that's visible. So the main giraffe, the scan itself is actually invisible. The group is invisible. The medium mesh test is invisible. Just our low and textured mesh is ready to go. So I'll press export, give it a name, export. we go. Give it a place to stay. And one thing that it will tell you on Chrome is that when you go to download your files, because it's an HTTP website, it will flag it as an insecure download, but you can just press keep, and then it will keep it for you. So there you have it. We have a full scan, the clean alignment, mesh optimization, the texturing using the Matter and Form 3. Again, I would recommend when you're first starting out to check out the tutorials, the single scan demo and turntable scan demo. And if you do have questions, you can always contact us through the help button here. Just click contact support and give us your name and address and what you're contacting us about. If you want to include images from your last scan, you can do that by clicking this on. Thank you for joining me through this walkthrough. I hope it helped clarify the process of scanning with the Matter and Form 3 and give you some confidence to go create some really amazing scans.